In 1669 the people of the villages of Mohra and Elfdale in Sweden, believing that they were troubled by witches, were visited by a royal commission, the result of whose investigations was the execution of 23 adults and 15 children, running of the gauntlet by 36 between the ages of 9 and 16 years, the lashing on the hand of 20 children for 3 Sundays at the church door, and similar lashing of the aforesaid 36 once a week for a year. This Swedish case was Cotton Mather's special topic. In his Wonders of the Invisible World, he says that other good people have in this way been harassed, but none in circumstances more like to ours, than the people of God in Sweden. Portions of the Confessions of the Witches are given here from the Public Register as translated by the Reverend Dr. Anthony Hornock, and printed in London, anno 1700. Hornock quotes the confession of one witch. His report follows.
We of the province of Elfdale do confess that we used to go to a gravel pit which lay hard by a cross way, and there we put on a wolf girdle over our heads, and then danced round, and after this ran to the cross way, and called the devil thrice, first with a still voice, the second time somewhat louder, and the third time very loud, with these words, Antecessor, come and carry us to Blockula. Whereupon immediately he used to appear, but in different habits, but for the most part we saw him in a grey coat and red and blue stockings, he had a red beard, a high-crowned hat, with linen of divers colours wrapped about it, and long garters upon his stockings. Then he asked us whether we would serve him with soul and body. If we were content to do so, he set us upon a beast which he had there ready, and carried us over churches and high walls, and after all we came to a green meadow where Blockula lies. Then he gives us a horn with a salve in it, wherewith we do anoint ourselves, and a saddle with a hammer and a wooden nail, thereby to fix the saddle, whereupon we call upon the devil and away we go.
For their journey, they said they made use of all sorts of instruments, of beasts, of men, of spirits, according as they had opportunity. If they do ride upon goats and have many children with them, that all may have room, they stick a spit into the backside of the goat, and then are anointed with the aforesaid ointment. If the children did at any time name the names of those that had carried them away, they were again carried by force either to Blockula, or to the crossway, and there miserably beaten, insomuch that some of them died of it. A little girl of Elfdale confessed that, naming the name of Jesus as she was carried away, she fell suddenly upon the ground, and got a great hole in her side, which the devil presently healed up again, and away he carried her, and to this day the girl confessed she had exceeding great pain in her side. They unanimously confessed that Blockula is situated in a delicate large meadow, whereof you can see no end. The place or house they met at had before it a gate painted with divers colours. Through this gate they went into a little meadow distinct from the other, where the beasts went that they used to ride on, but the men whom they made use of in their journey stood in the house by the gate in a slumbering posture, sleeping against the wall. In a huge large room of this house, they said, there stood a very long table, at which the witches did sit down, and that hard by this room was another chamber where there were very lovely and delicate beds. The first thing they must do at Blockula was, that they must deny all, and devote themselves body and soul to the devil, and promise to serve him faithfully, and confirm all this with an oath. Hereupon they cut their fingers, and with their blood write their name in his book. They added that he caused them to be baptized, too, by such priests as he had there. And he, the devil, bids them believe that the day of judgment will come speedily, and therefore sets them on work to build a great house of stone, promising that in that house he will preserve them from God's fury, and cause them to enjoy the greatest delights and pleasures. But while they work exceeding hard at it, there falls a great part of the wall down again. They said, they had seen sometimes a very great devil like a dragon, with fire round about him, and bound with an iron chain, and the devil that converses with them tells them that if they confess anything he will let that great devil loose upon them, whereby all Sweden shall come into great danger. Some of the children talked much of a white angel, which used to forbid them what the devil had bid them do, and told them that those doings should not last long. What had been done had been permitted because of the wickedness of the people. Those of Elfdale confessed that the devil used to play upon an harp before them, and afterwards to go with them that he liked best into a chamber, when he committed venerous acts with them, and this indeed all confessed, that he had carnal knowledge of them, and that the devil had sons and daughters by them, which he did marry together, and they brought forth toads and serpents. After meals they went to dancing, and in the meanwhile swore and cursed most dreadfully, and afterwards went to fighting one with another. The Lord's commissioners were indeed very earnest, and took great pains to persuade them to show some of their tricks, but to no purpose, for they did all unanimously confess that since they had confessed all, they found that all their witchcraft was gone, and that the devil at this time appeared to them very terrible, with claws on his hands and feet, and with horns on his head, a long tail behind, and showed to them a pit burning, with a hand put out. But the devil did thrust the person down again with an iron fork, and suggested to the witches that if they continued in their confession, he would deal with them in the same manner. The ministers of both Elfdale and Mohra were the chief inciters of this investigation, and both testified that they had suffered many tortures in the night from the witches. One was taken by the throat and so violently used that for some weeks he was not able to speak or perform divine service.
Blockula seems to be a Swedish edition of Blocksberg, of old considered a great resort of witches. But we may especially note the epithet by which the witches are said to have first appealed to the devil, that is antecessor. Dr. Horneck has not given us the Swedish term of which this is a translation, but we may feel assured that it was not a phrase coined by the class among whom reputed witches were found. In all probability it was a learned phrase of the time for some supposed power which preceded and was conquered by Christianity, and if we knew its significance it might supply a clue to the reality with which the commissioners were dealing. There would seem to be strong probabilities that in Sweden also, as elsewhere, there had been a revival of faith in the old religion whose barbaric rites had still survived in a few holes and corners where they were practiced by night. The antecessor was still present to hold out promises where the successor had broken all that his sponsors had made when the populace accepted his baptism.